It was a cold morning in Philadelphia. 7:15 a.m. The streets were quiet, the city just beginning to wake. A promising young basketball star stepped outside his home in Frankfurt, his breath visible in the crisp air. His mother was just a few steps behind him. Then, gunfire. Rapid. Unrelenting. Over 50 shots tore through the morning silence. The boy staggered, his body collapsing onto the pavement. His mother's screams pierced through the chaos. The shooters didn't hesitate. They had one goal. And they made sure he wasn't getting back up. This wasn't a robbery. This wasn't mistaken identity. This was an execution. A name whispered in the streets. A name feared and hunted. Jordan Carter. A star athlete, a straight-A student, a young man with one of the highest SAT scores in his school. But in the streets, he was known as something else. And that name carried weight, a weight heavy enough to put a target on his back. So how does a high school senior, celebrated for his intelligence and talent, end up lying lifeless outside his home, his killers vanishing into the morning shadows? Today, we dig deep into a story the media won't fully tell. The double life of Jordan Carter. The truth hidden between the basketball court and the back alleys of Philadelphia. Before we get into this deep investigation, if you enjoy detailed crime stories like this, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what's coming next on Vic's True Crime Stories. Jordan was special. Not just because of his talent on the court, but because of his relentless drive and unshakable determination. Coaches marveled at how he seemed to glide across the basketball court, each move precise, each play calculated. He wasn't just a player, he was a leader, the heart and soul of Samuel Fells High School's team. His coach often said, Jordan had that rare combination of natural ability and work ethic. You don't see it every day. He had a future ahead of him. College scholarships, maybe even the NBA. Off the court, Jordan was equally impressive. In the classroom, he stood out as one of the top students in his school. Teachers remember him sitting near the front, always engaged, always asking questions. His SAT scores were among the highest in school history, a testament to his intellectual curiosity and discipline. One teacher recalled, he was destined for greatness. There was no doubt in my mind that this kid was going places. He could have done anything he set his mind to. Teammates described him as their rock, someone they could always count on. Classmates spoke of his charisma, his humor, and his kindness. To them, Jordan was more than just a star athlete or an academic achiever. He was a friend, a role model, a beacon of hope. But behind the accolades and achievements, there was another side to Jordan Carter, a side few people knew about. A side tied to the streets of Philadelphia. While he excelled in school and sports, Jordan also lived in a world where respect wasn't earned through grades or championships but through fear and reputation. It was a world where social media amplified tensions, turning words into weapons and rivalries into wars. In the hallways of Samuel Fells, Jordan was the all-around standout, polite, focused, and driven. But outside those walls, in the neighborhoods of Frankfurt and beyond, he was known by a different name, Lil J. This alter ego wasn't born overnight. It grew gradually, nurtured by the environment around him. For many young men in Philadelphia, the line between ambition and survival blurs quickly. Basketball courts become battlegrounds, and social media becomes the arena where reputations are made or broken. By day, Jordan dominated the court, scoring points and earning praise from coaches and scouts alike. By night, he posted videos online, rapping about loyalty, betrayal, and power. These weren't just songs, they were declarations of intent, challenges thrown down to rivals who dared question his status. Each verse carried weight, each line a promise of retaliation if crossed. And while some dismissed these posts as mere bravado, others took them seriously. Very seriously. The duality of Jordan's life wasn't lost on those closest to him. Friends noticed when his demeanor shifted, when the boy who once laughed easily now carried himself with a hardened edge. Teachers saw glimpses of it too, the occasional distraction during class, the brief moments when Jordan seemed distant, lost in thought. Yet no one intervened, perhaps because no one fully understood the pressures weighing on him. How do you tell a teenager brimming with potential to walk away from the only world he knows? To understand Jordan's journey, we must first understand the city that shaped him. Philadelphia, with its rich history and vibrant culture, is also a place where poverty, inequality, and violence intersect in devastating ways. Gang activity has long been a part of the landscape, fueled by systemic issues like lack of opportunity, inadequate education, and limited access to resources. Social media exacerbates these problems, creating echo chambers where disputes escalate rapidly and violently. What might start as a harmless comment can spiral into something far darker, with real-world consequences. For Jordan, the allure of the streets wasn't just about belonging, it was about identity. In a world where success is often measured by material possessions and perceived strength, being Lil J gave him a sense of purpose that academia and athletics couldn't fully satisfy. But this dual existence came at a cost. The same qualities that made Jordan excel on the court, his competitiveness, his refusal to back down, also made him a target in the streets. Every diss track, every taunt, every flash of a weapon was a step closer to danger. As Jordan rose in prominence both as an athlete and a street figure, so did the stakes. Rivals watched his every move, waiting for an opening. Allies urged him to stay sharp, warning him not to let his guard down. Meanwhile, his family tried to shield him from the chaos, hoping against hope that he could escape the cycle of violence. But the streets don't forgive mistakes, and they rarely give second chances. Did you know that over 60% of homicides involving teens are linked to gang activity? Let's explore how social media and systemic issues played a role in Jordan's case. Don't forget to share this video with anyone interested in understanding the complexities of modern-day youth violence. Because beneath the surface of every rising star lies a story shaped by choices, circumstances, and the pressures of growing up in a city like Philadelphia. As we delve deeper into Jordan's story, we'll uncover the layers of his life, the dreams he pursued, the challenges he faced, and the forces that ultimately led to his tragic end. But before we do, take a moment to reflect. Could Jordan's fate have been different? Or was he caught in a system that left little room for escape? Stay tuned as we continue to unravel the truth behind his double life. After watching his music videos and catching up more on the depth of his street life, that's when I realized he wasn't just a kid anymore. Jordan had grown into something else, someone who carried the weight of his neighborhood on his shoulders. To him, it wasn't just about personal pride, it was about protecting what little he had in a world that often overlooked or dismissed people like him. For Jordan, being Lil J wasn't just a persona, it was survival. In a world where power and territory mean everything, every lyric, every post, every move was a declaration of war. The streets of Philadelphia don't reward passivity. They demand strength, loyalty, and fearlessness, or at least the appearance of it. Social media became Jordan's weapon of choice, a way to project dominance without ever having to step foot into enemy territory. His videos showed him surrounded by friends, rapping about resilience, flashing weapons as symbols of protection rather than aggression. Each video was meticulously crafted, each line carefully chosen to send a message: "Don't mess with us." But for every post Jordan made, there was a response. Rival gangs watched closely, waiting for an opportunity to strike back. These weren't just words, they were challenges, invitations to conflict. A gang expert explains, social media has become the battleground for these kids. Every diss track, every taunt, they're all part of the escalation. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire. What starts as harmless boasting can quickly turn deadly. In the early days, Jordan might have seen this as harmless fun, a way to build his reputation and gain followers. But over time, the stakes grew higher. Enemies became more vocal, threats more explicit. Friends began warning him to tone it down, to focus on basketball and school instead of risking everything for fleeting recognition. Yet Jordan couldn't stop. For him, backing down wasn't an option. Backing down meant weakness, and weakness invited attack. Emotional flashbacks reveal moments of vulnerability hidden beneath Jordan's tough exterior. One such moment takes place late at night in his bedroom. He sits alone, scrolling through comments on his latest rap video. Some are supportive, praising his flow and energy. Others are venomous, calling him names, threatening violence. Jordan stares at the screen, his expression unreadable. Inside, he wrestles with two worlds colliding. Is he the athlete everyone admires, the boy destined for greatness? Or is he the street figure everyone fears, the man willing to do whatever it takes to protect his name? Or perhaps, most painfully, is he both? This internal struggle isn't new for Jordan. As a younger teen, he witnessed firsthand the consequences of disrespect in his neighborhood. An older cousin once got jumped because he failed to respond to a verbal insult. Another friend ended up in jail after retaliating against a perceived slight. These experiences taught Jordan a harsh lesson. In the streets, perception matters more than reality. If you want to survive, you have to be seen as someone who won't back down. As Jordan's fame grew, so did the pressure. More eyes were on him, more expectations placed upon him. On the court, he was expected to win games and lead his team to victory. In the classroom, he was expected to maintain his grades and secure scholarships. And on the streets, he was expected to command respect, to never show weakness. Balancing these roles proved nearly impossible. There were nights when Jordan stayed up late writing lyrics, trying to channel his frustrations into art. Other nights, he paced his room, replaying conversations in his head, wondering if he'd said too much or done too little. The tension between Jordan's public personas, Lil J and the rising star, reached a breaking point when he received a direct threat from a rival gang. Messages were sent to him. "You think you big now? We gon' show you real soon." Jordan shows the message to a close friend, who urges him to ignore it. "Man, don't let them get to you," the friend says. But Jordan shakes his head. "They already did," he replies quietly. From that moment on, every move he made felt like walking a tightrope, knowing one misstep could cost him everything. To outsiders, Jordan seemed invincible. On social media, he exuded confidence, laughing off threats and doubling down on his bravado. But behind closed doors, he carried the weight of those threats with him everywhere he went. He started carrying a weapon, not out of malice, but out of fear. "It's not about wanting to hurt anyone," he confides in another flashback. "It's about making sure no one hurts me." As the weeks passed, the divide between Jordan's worlds widened. Coaches noticed changes in his behavior during practice. Shorter temper, less focus. Teachers remarked on how distracted he seemed in class. Even his closest friends admitted they didn't recognize him sometimes. Yet none of them fully understood the pressures he faced, the constant battle raging inside him. For Jordan, the question remained unanswered. Could he reconcile his dual identities, or would one inevitably consume the other? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected, setting the stage for a tragedy that would leave an entire community reeling. Stay tuned as we explore the tipping point that changed everything, and ask ourselves whether any of it could have been avoided. Don't forget to share this video with anyone who cares about understanding the complexities of modern-day youth struggles. Together, we can spark meaningful conversations about the challenges facing young people today. It was May 2023, and the air in Philadelphia carried an edge of tension. The streets of Frankfurt were alive with whispers of trouble brewing between rival gangs. That night, on the 4600 block of Mulberry Street, everything came to a head. A shooting erupted, leaving chaos in its wake. One victim was a 66-year-old man who lost his life that evening. 3 teens were injured, their futures forever altered by the violence. Among them was Jordan Carter. "I'll never forget the sound of those shots," recalls one of the victims, her voice trembling as she speaks. "It felt like time stopped. When I saw Jordan lying there, I thought for sure he wasn't going to make it." Emergency responders arrived quickly, but the damage was done. Jordan survived, though barely. His body bore the scars of that night, a stark reminder of how close he came to death. But the emotional toll ran even deeper. That night, Jordan's survival could have been a wake-up call. For many, such brushes with mortality serve as turning points, moments when they step back and reassess their choices. But for Jordan, it wasn't about reflection, it was about retaliation. To some, this near-death experience was a sign that he needed to change course. To others, it was proof that he couldn't afford to show weakness. Instead of stepping back, Jordan doubled down, using his brush with death as fuel for his next moves. In the days and weeks following the shooting, Jordan's online presence grew more aggressive. Clips of him rapping about surviving the attack began appearing on social media. In these videos, he laughs off the danger, taunting his rivals with lyrics that dripped with bravado. "They tried to take me out, but I'm still here," he raps in one video, flashing a weapon as if to emphasize his point. Each post drew responses from opposing factions, escalating tensions further. Friends tried to warn him, urging him to tone it down. "Man, you're playing with fire," one friend says in a clip. But Jordan waves him off, confident in his ability to handle whatever came his way. A psychologist explains the psychology behind Jordan's behavior. When someone survives trauma, especially in environments where violence is normalized, they often respond by escalating their behavior. It's a way of proving they're untouchable. They believe that showing vulnerability will only invite more attacks, so instead, they project strength, even if it means putting themselves in greater danger. Jordan's posts weren't just expressions of defiance, they were declarations of war. Rival gangs took notice, interpreting each line as a direct challenge. "Teen survives shooting, responds with aggressive social media campaign," reads one headline. Another states, "Social media feeds cycle of retaliation among city gangs." Public opinion split along familiar lines. Some sympathized with Jordan's plight, while others criticized him for contributing to the cycle of violence. As the months passed, Jordan became increasingly entrenched in his role as Lil J. The boundaries between his two worlds blurred almost completely. On the court, he continued to excel, scoring points and earning accolades. Off the court, however, his reputation as a street figure grew stronger. Every move he made was scrutinized, every word he posted analyzed for meaning. And with each new challenge, the pressure mounted. What do you think? Was Jordan trapped in a cycle of violence, or did he choose this path willingly? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, give this video a thumbs up if you found it informative. As we delve deeper into Jordan's story, we'll uncover the forces that shaped his decisions and explore whether any of it could have been avoided. The night before his murder, Jordan Carter was alive with energy. Under the dim glow of streetlights, he filmed what would become his final rap video. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as his crew gathered around, laughing and cheering him on. "They gon' talk," Jordan said repeatedly during the shoot, a phrase that now echoes hauntingly in the memories of those who were there. At the time, it seemed like just another line, another boast meant to fuel his growing reputation. But looking back, some wonder if Jordan knew something they didn't. As the camera rolled, Jordan moved with confidence, every step deliberate, every word charged with intensity. He flashed weapons, danced with his friends, and rapped about surviving the streets, a narrative he had built over months of online posts and public declarations. To anyone watching, it looked like just another night in the life of Lil J. But behind the scenes, the tension was palpable. Shadows loomed in the background, both literal and metaphorical, as the weight of his choices pressed down on him. While Jordan performed for the camera, somewhere nearby, three figures sat quietly in a dark sedan. Their eyes were fixed on the house where Jordan lived, their masks concealing faces hardened by years of violence. They weren't there by chance. This wasn't random. For them, this mission was business. Cold, calculated, and devoid of emotion. Every detail had been planned. The timing, the location, the method. All that remained was patience. Back at the filming site, Jordan's crew members laughed off his bold statements, unaware of the danger closing in. "We didn't know it then, but that was his final performance," one crew member recalls later, his voice heavy with regret. "He kept saying, 'They gone talk,' and we just laughed it off." Now, looking back, it feels like he knew something we didn't. Perhaps Jordan sensed the storm approaching, or maybe he simply embraced the inevitability of his lifestyle. Either way, nothing could have prepared his friends for what was coming. The hours ticked by slowly as Jordan wrapped up the video. With each passing moment, the sedan outside his home grew closer to its target. Surveillance footage later revealed the car parked inconspicuously across the street, blending seamlessly into the night. Inside, the figures waited patiently, their resolve unwavering. For them, this wasn't personal. It was a message, a statement intended to silence any further challenges from Jordan and his allies. Detectives investigating the case pieced together the evidence in painstaking detail. What emerged was a chilling picture of premeditation. By the time we pieced together the evidence, it was clear this wasn't random, one detective explains. This was planned. Every detail pointed to a calculated execution. From the choice of weapon to the precise timing of the attack, everything suggested that Jordan's death was not an impulsive act but a carefully orchestrated operation. As the night wore on, Jordan returned home, oblivious to the fate awaiting him. His final moments captured on film remain a testament to his charisma, his resilience, and the duality of his existence. On one hand, he was a young man full of promise, destined for greatness on the court and in the classroom. On the other, he was a figure caught in the grip of a world where respect came at a steep price. In the quiet hours before dawn, two worlds collided, one filled with dreams and potential, the other governed by fear and retribution. And as the sun rose on January 14, 2025, the city of Philadelphia woke to the tragic news of Jordan Carter's untimely death. In less than 10 seconds, 50 rounds of bullets shattered the peace of that cold January morning. The sound of rapid gunfire reverberated through the quiet neighborhood, each shot a violent punctuation mark in the otherwise still air. Jordan Carter, the boy with the world at his feet, was moments away from being dropped off at school by his mother when everything changed forever. As they stood together on the sidewalk, preparing for what should have been just another school day, chaos erupted without warning. Jordan barely had time to register what was happening before the bullets found their mark. His body jerked violently as he collapsed onto the cold concrete, life slipping away in an instant. His mother, standing mere feet away, could only watch in horror as her son fell. Her scream pierced the air, a raw, primal cry that seemed to tear through the very fabric of reality. Her hands flew to her mouth in disbelief, her eyes locked on her son's crumpled form. In those fleeting moments, everything changed. The boy she had raised, the dreams they had shared, all reduced to silence and stillness. There was no warning, no chance to say goodbye. One moment, he was stepping outside with his mother by his side, ready to face another day. The next, he was gone, stolen from the world too soon. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, their sirens wailing against the backdrop of devastation. But it was already too late. At 7:53 a.m., Jordan Carter was pronounced dead, his promising future extinguished in a hail of gunfire, right in front of the woman who loved him most. "I still hear his voice sometimes, calling my name," his mother testifies later, her voice trembling with grief. "I keep wondering if I could have done something differently. If I could have saved him." Her words are a haunting echo of the unanswerable questions left behind by such senseless violence. How does a parent come to terms with losing a child, especially in such a brutal and public manner? How do you reconcile the memory of laughter and ambition with the brutal finality of death? As neighbors gathered in stunned silence, the weight of the loss began to settle over the community. A rising star, a brilliant student, a young man full of potential, Jordan was more than just a statistic or a headline. He was a son, a friend, a teammate, a dreamer. And now, he was gone, his story cut tragically short by the same streets that once promised him power and respect. This heartbreaking execution serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of choices made under pressure, of the fragile line between survival and destruction. It's a cautionary tale about the cost of living in a world where fear and pride often outweigh reason and hope. As we reflect on Jordan's life and death, we're left to grapple with the complexities of a system that allows such tragedies to occur, and the urgent need for change. In the days following Jordan Carter's death, Philadelphia came together in a mix of grief, anger, and reflection. Vigils were held in his honor, with friends, family, and community members gathering to light candles and share memories of the young man who had touched so many lives. Murals painted on neighborhood walls immortalized Jordan as both an athlete and a symbol of hope, a reminder of what could have been. Yet, beneath the surface of collective mourning, a complex web of emotions and opinions began to emerge. Jordan was a victim of circumstances beyond his control, said a community leader during one of the vigils, her voice steady but tinged with sorrow. Yes, he made mistakes, but no child deserves to die like that. Our system failed him. Her words resonated deeply with those who saw Jordan not as a statistic or a headline, but as a son, a friend, and a product of a society that often neglects its most vulnerable youth. For them, Jordan's story was a tragedy rooted in systemic issues: poverty, lack of opportunity, and the normalization of violence in certain communities. But not everyone shared this perspective. As news of the shooting spread, public opinion split along familiar lines. While some mourned Jordan's loss, others pointed fingers at his choices, questioning whether his involvement in street life made him complicit in his own fate. Social media buzzed with debates. Was Jordan a victim? Or did he contribute to his own downfall? These questions lingered long after the funeral flowers faded, echoing through conversations in homes, schools, and online forums. News reports covering the aftermath painted a complicated picture. Headlines criticized the media for sensationalizing the tragedy, reducing it to sound bites and statistics rather than exploring the deeper human story behind it. 17-year-old star student-athlete shot and killed on the way to school in Philadelphia, read one headline, while another proclaimed, P18 basketball player, top SAT scorer Noah Scurry fatally shot, another report, Fells High student-athlete shot dead behind his North Philadelphia home. Police say behind these headlines, however, lay a family grappling with unimaginable loss and a community searching for answers. An expert commentary clip shed light on the dangers of oversimplifying such cases. Media coverage often reduces complex issues to sound bites, the expert explained. But behind every headline is a person, a family, struggling to make sense of loss. We must look beyond the surface-level details to understand the broader context of why tragedies like this happen. This duality, the tension between public perception and personal reality, highlighted the challenges faced by families like Jordan's. On one hand, there was the public narrative, which often focused on blame and judgment. On the other, there was the private pain of those left behind, trying to piece together their shattered lives. Jordan's mother spoke openly about her struggle to reconcile the boy she knew with the image portrayed in the media. "He wasn't perfect," she admitted in an interview. "But he was my son, and he deserved better." As the city processed Jordan's death, calls for action grew louder. Community leaders demanded greater investment in programs aimed at keeping kids off the streets and providing alternatives to gang involvement. Teachers and coaches recalled Jordan's potential, urging policymakers to address the root causes of youth violence. Meanwhile, friends and classmates organized fundraisers to support Jordan's family, ensuring that his memory lived on through acts of kindness and solidarity. Through it all, one truth remained clear: Jordan Carter's story was far more than just a crime report. It was a reflection of the struggles faced by countless young people growing up in environments where survival often comes at a terrible cost. And as the city moved forward, it carried with it the hope that Jordan's life and death might inspire meaningful change, offering future generations a chance to break free from cycles of violence and despair. Jordan Carter's story is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the fragility of hope and the weight of choices. As we reflect on his life, we're left to grapple with difficult questions that extend far beyond the headlines. Can kids growing up in violent neighborhoods truly escape their surroundings? Or are they doomed by the very systems meant to protect them? Jordan was more than just a statistic or a headline. He was a son, a friend, a dreamer, a young man caught between two worlds, each demanding its own form of strength and survival. Thank you for joining me today on Vic's True Crime Stories. If you found this episode impactful, please share it with friends who care about understanding the root causes of youth violence. Together, we can spark meaningful conversations that lead to change. Conversations about education, community support, and the urgent need to break cycles of violence before they claim another promising life. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and enable notifications for more deep dives into true crime stories. Each story we uncover sheds light on the complexities of human experience and the challenges faced by those living at the intersection of personal choice and societal pressures. Until next time, stay safe and keep thinking critically. Because behind every case lies a person, a family, and a community striving to make sense of loss, and sometimes to find hope amidst the tragedy.